Hishab, and we shall find out what Hishab is. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Hishab.
So, hi, I'm from Hishab Limited. As the name suggests, you could probably have guessed, what we do is we calculate. We keep records of things. How do we do that? Traditionally, or typically, when you go to a shop of any types, you have a printed receipts after you do shopping. Sometimes you purchase on credit. Now, many of you who are from Bangladesh probably understood what I said when I mentioned you buy on credit. So there is culture in the emerging countries around the world that is you buy something today, but you pay for it after a month. Let me give you a little brief. We all have friends. We all have colleagues. We all shop, sometimes at grocery shops, sometimes the supermarkets. Many of us go to banks, retail banks, to loan money. Many of our friends, or probably acquaintances who own small retail shops, probably go to the bank to loan money, or probably go to MFIs or mobile financial institutes to loan money at a very high interest rate. Now, all of it has one common problem. The problem is it requires, well, all this system or ecosystem requires a technology somewhere in the middle to connect the gap from within. And let me take you to the straight to the slides. It's a okay. Something came up. So right. So this is a picture of a MFI institute. This is what happens when the MFI or NGOs collect money on the loans that they give away. Oh, okay, I figured out now how it works. Right, and this is a picture of a retail grocery shop owner. He writes down of his credit-based transactions on a tally book. They call it halkata in Bengali. This is the picture of a restaurant, a local restaurant in Bangladesh, or probably it's very similar to other emerging countries that you go to as well. So basically, what happens there is you sit down, you order food sometimes, and then they do all the calculations over mouth, like on the fly, and then they write down something on a piece of paper, and they ask you to pay for it. And believe me, many times I ended up paying more or less. Got lucky, sometimes it took the best of me. And I bet many of you experienced that one as well. And this is what happens when your friends wants to borrow money from you. Now you're very shy or you're embarrassed. You don't want to disappoint your friend, but kind of like you feel like you really kind of have to. So you end up loaning your friends, and now you don't know how to get it back, because you're also embarrassed to ask for the return of that money. And then some of us loan money from banks, and guess what? If it's a MSE, like small stores, banks have no clue of their PL or profit loss or cash flow statements. So as a result, what happens is banks have to rely on something. So these shops found an innovative way to produce PL and CF. Cheat. Make things up, write things up. And guess who helps them do that? It's the banks. Because they have an obligation to disburse loans. They know what's going on, but they fell trap of the system itself. And finally, you send money over mobile phones today. Companies like M-Pesa, Bcash are doing pretty well. But everything, all of it, has something lacking. What's lacking is, well, that's an angry face when you didn't get your money back on time. The problem is, in Bangladesh in particular, 45% of our population are either poor or extremely poor. Of these poor people, 35% people can barely even sign their names. Do you expect them to actually use a mobile phone application to do something? Now, this is funny. Poor or not poor, regardless of how poor they are, 84% of the whole population of Bangladesh owns a mobile phone, and that's the data based on last year. Of this, 95% usage of a mobile phone is actually talking on the phone. They just talk. We love talking, don't we? Now, of the remaining 5%, 3% usage is actually calculator. They use it as a calculator. 1% is SMS, and the 1% is application, like rest of it. Whatever you can think of, that falls in the 1%. That's the typical usage of a mobile phone. This tells us one thing. The lack that we had in the earlier slides, the synergy between technology and services, that gap, needs to be filled by something which is not an application for sure, at least not at this stage of development. If you see how, you know this very well, so I'm going to just, sprint through. Back in time, in 1980s, basically we had GUI, graphical user interface. We used to see what we need to do. That's the first time. We came out of those common prompt thing. And then we had this Apple that brought up finger as your stylus. They replaced the traditional stylus. And what we're saying is that world will soon be obsolete because we need a next generation data input system that helps any people, regardless of their education system, regardless of what they know, regardless of the literacy, something that solves universal problem. That is, some of us are not educated enough or illiterate. We need to have a common platform that addresses everyone. And I think we found that holy grail. That's actually, one of that example is Siri today. It's your voice. You talk to the system. Let the system understand you. That way, if there is this one simple user interface that you can talk to, and it will understand what you're trying to tell it, instead of us learning about technology today, let technology learn about us. And there is only one way to do that. That is, we know that word very well, artificial intelligence. We are moving towards singularity today, deep learning, machine learning. However you call it, that's the thing that will change, that will bring that phase of adaptation, or help us take that transformation to the next layer. Now, what did we do to solve that gap inside all those entities, all those stakeholders? Well, what we did is we started our R&D 5 years back. We're trying to understand how to create a Bengali or Bangla-based automatic engine that will understand Bengali. Our quest took us to many places. To unbelievable places. Took me to, actually, I lived with one of those grocery retailers in Tangail for 1 week, and I got so sick that I was in the hospital for 2 weeks for food poisoning, because I was trying to understand how he led his life. Yeah, and after a month, I was back again to a different shop. I thought my stomach was getting better, but I was sick again for 1 month this time. This was water contamination. These guys live with it every day. And when we introduced our service at first to them about a year ago, the wife came personally to me, thanking me, saying, "My husband finally comes back home early. And guess what? He's not educated, but we now know how much we spent, how much we earned, and how much we're projected to earn next month." And funny thing is, their whole family, except for the 2 kids, none of them know how to read and write. but they can do accounting. And that's the beauty of a simple voice-based user interface. We're calling it VUI. Actually, that's a term that we came up with, by the way. Now, how does this work? We have a simple short code number, 16513. What happens, instead of relying on traditional internet-based system, we made it call-based system, because everybody has got some money in it, in their phone. 1 taka, 2 taka, 10 taka, whatever it is. So they can call. If they call, the system automatically connects to our automatic IVR, and that triggers our AI and ASR engine. And therefore, automatically understanding the user's needs or requirements. At this moment, we can do financial transactions like accounting, bookkeeping of some kind, of some sort, to some limitations, of course, then sales and inventory management. So basically, just call and speak about this is one use case scenario. So here, the case scenario is that there is a buyer, this lady, and there is this seller. He's a grocery shop owner. So this grocery shop owner is actually selling something to that lady. And he's saying that he sold 10 kg of potato to Miss Sadia, phone number this. And he sold it on credit, or maybe half on credit, or half on cash, whatever that combination is. Then informing that full combination, that transaction automatically triggers an SMS-based receipt, sent to either party. So the sender and the buyer and the receiver both gets an SMS confirming the detailed transaction of this. Very simple, but miraculously, it solved so many problems at once. These illiterate people, or people that doesn't know even how to sign their names, suddenly knew how to synchronize their businesses. I'm going to skip these boring parts. So basically, our service is very, very much off-limit at this moment. We are not offering the service to all companies, unfortunately, due to some technical upgradation and so. So currently we're working with very limited partners, very limited number of companies. But from next year, we would open the service for everyone. As we believe in social innovation, we made everything free. We're not charging a penny for anything you use. So if you don't have, a system and you want to give it a shot, you could try it. But before that, we would appreciate if you sign up first. Okay, so how does it add value? Basically, it brings your cost, your traditional cost, your current cost, for however you're using, down to 140%. I know, some of you are probably thinking, that's crazy, that's nuts, it's impossible. Well, it is possible. We actually did test it for over a year to about 60 different shops. Each and every one of them got their cost down by 140% without, using anything else. So before they're using Hishab, they were either using traditional Tallybook, or they had a simple ERP solution installed somewhere in their PCs, or some of them were using it from smartphones based on smartphone apps. But their costs were down that much. So one more thing, the system that we developed requires no training. You don't need to know anything. No internet connectivity is required. Your phone does not have to have any internet connection. As long as it has a SIM card, you're good to go. No hardware. You don't need to buy anything. No hardware. If you got a phone, it will do it. Any phone. You don't need to download any apps. You can forget about Google Play stores or app stores. No offense to them, but you don't need to download anything for this. Just dial and use right there. So right now we're working with Bank Asia. We're processing their loans with we're processing business loans for customers that are taking loans from Bank Asia. Also, we're working with Aki's group for their inventory management, sales management, and also with Bees, the NGO that are actually offering or providing microloans to different customers. And aside from that, currently we're funded by DFID, the UK aid. Many of you probably know. So we are one of the surprise recipients of that fund. The reason I say surprising is because they have a condition that the company has to be 4 years old, and we were only 4 months old when we applied for it. So that's why it's surprising. I still don't know how we got that. And then we're also funded by several venture capitals. We're funded by Spiral Ventures from Singapore and IMJ Group from Japan. So they're basically our equity partners, and aside from that, there are a few more names. So basically, as myself, I'm an investment banker. Sad to say. Well, I was a venture capitalist. I was from Goldman Sachs, and also I worked with several large. I was a CEO of the largest venture capital in Japan for about 5 years. And my co-founder sitting there, he's going to have a keynote about our core technology later. Actually, that's how he really is. He was not faking it or making it. That's how he really is, and that's few of our team members right there. And we didn't have enough space, so we had to cut short. Yeah, so all of us together, it's just few people. We don't have a big team, few people, extremely passionate. They know what they're doing. Each and every one of us know precisely what they're doing. And together, I'd say over the past 5 years, we somewhat did something that was not done in many years. That is, connect someone to technology, even if they have no internet, or even if they don't know, they're not educated or literate. So thank you very much. That's it from me. So